Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Ian Duke, and we're ready for round number 7 of Modern here. Let's get down to the feature match area where we have Raymond Perez. Take a look at Ray, sporting that hot sauce shirt there. He is on Infect, and that makes this matchup very interesting because his opponent, Martin Muller from Team Eureka, well, he's playing Death Shadow Aggro. And Ian, I got to hear how this matches up because I know the Death Shadow deck wants to do damage to itself.
That's right.
I know the Infect deck isn't that interested in doing actual damage. Right. So I'm seeing a discrepancy here.
Yeah, it's really interesting dynamic for the matchup. I mean, this Death Shadow Aggro deck is all about dealing damage to yourself, making your Death Shadow even larger. You know, you're shocking yourself with your shock lands, you're cycling Gitaxian Probes and Street Wraiths, all in the name of getting a huge Death Shadow and then combining it with things like Teamer Battle Rage and become immense to just deal massive amounts of damage.
Speaking of Street Wraiths, by the way, there's already 2 in the graveyard.
Oh, wow.
Here, yeah, go ahead.
Going off. And then the Infect deck, as I'm sure we've all seen many times before, is, you know, similarly all about playing a bunch of pump spells to do a bunch of poison damage. But the real interesting thing here is that the Infect deck doesn't deal damage to the Death Shadow deck, which is dealing damage to itself. So contrary to a matchup like Death Shadow versus Burn, where both decks are kind of trying to do the same thing in terms of damaging the Death Shadow deck, the Infect deck is operating on the poison axis instead. So.
Well, Martin has done a very good job of getting his life total low here. On turn 1, he's down to 13.
All right.
And there you can see the Death Shadow sitting right there. There's also a Thoughtseize, the other combo piece of Teamer Battle Rage, a second copy of Wild Nacatl and a Lightning Bolt with some lands.
Yeah, so pretty easy, like, turn 3 win here, I think, for the Death Shadow deck, assuming no disruption from on the part of Raymond Perez.
And I'll tell you what, this Infect deck is not high on disruption in game 1. It does play a Spell Pierce. That can get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Does have 4 Vines of the Vastwood, or Vines of Vastwood, which you can use in a somewhat disruptive way. But not really. You know, this deck just really isn't set up. It's really looking at its own game plan. What the heck? All right, well, I've got a match update for you already, Ian. Mike Ron has defeated Josh McClain in the first game already. And Tim said he's got one of those affinity draws.
Oh, wow. And so Ron is playing affinity then? And
yeah.
His opponent?
Yeah, Josh McClain's on Eldrazi.
Eldrazi, okay.
Yeah, because he's a Team Face-to-Face member, so he's on that deck.
So here in our feature match, we do see the second turn coming from Martin Muller with his Death Shadow Aggro deck. Fetching a Bloodstained Mire, presumably to get an untapped shock land that would knock him down to 8 life, it looks like here. Is that right?
You are correct. So this turn he can play both Nacatl and a Death Shadow?
Right.
He's going to get in for 2. There's the Death Shadow. So Death Shadow's weird, right? That's a card that we don't often see on the battlefield, even in Modern here.
Yeah.
How does it work? What's the plan here?
So Death Shadow, as you can see, it's a base 13/13, but it gets -X, where X is your life total. So when your life total is 13, you break even there. It's a 0/0. And then for every point you go below that, it sort of gets +1/+1. So the quick calculation is you can do 13 minus your life total is the power toughness of the Death Shadow. So with Muller being at 8, the Death Shadow is a 5/5.
For 1 mana.
For 1 mana. And next turn, you know, something like a Thoughtseize or another fetch land could make it even bigger, combined with Teamer Battle Rage, kaboom. So it's rare to see a deck that can Goldfish as fast or maybe even faster than Infect. But if there is one, this Death Shadow deck is definitely a contender. And it's pretty cool. I've seen this deck played a little bit in casual, you know, chatted with people about it, that kind of thing. And I always thought of it as kind of, you know, a goofy gimmick deck or what have you. So I'm a little surprised to see it at the Pro Tour. But on the other hand, I'm excited. You know, if a player like Martin Muller chooses this deck, he's saying this deck is great, you know?
We saw Matej Zadelkai also.
Uh-oh.
Is he actually killing it here? He is.
Okay.
Oh my goodness! Raymond Perez Jr. just stole that game.
Wow.
So what he did was he fetched up a Dryad Arbor, had Distortion Strike to give it unblockable, and then a bunch of pump spells to finish off Muller, who that really backfired.
Yeah, okay. So we were
Wow.
talking about the Infect deck not operating on the same axis, but there, kind of in a roundabout way, it did.
All right, so Raymond Perez Jr. picks up game 1. We'll be back right after these messages.
Ultra Pro is the place to go for all of your Magic accessories. With card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios showing off the best Magic art, Ultra Pro is the standard in safe storage. Visit ultrapro.com for more information. Friday Night Magic has expanded to include all formats. Get ready for Commander, Legacy, or even Conspiracy drafts. Check out your local store for details and share your FNM stories by using the hashtag MTGFNM. Visit magic.wizards.com/FNM for more information.
All right, let's get back down into the feature match area where we're going to jump to our back table there. You can see we've got Jason Chung and Alex Majleton about ready to fight it off on table B. So Chung is sitting with his Blue Moon deck.
Mm-hmm.
And he's up against Alex Majleton, who is playing a deck that he is quite familiar with. This is Affinity.
Yeah, and Marshall, we saw Jason Chung's deck last round. This red-blue control with Blood Moon face off against an Eldrazi deck, and dispatched it pretty convincingly. It definitely seemed like Jason had built his deck and tested with the Eldrazi deck in mind. To that end, I'm certainly sure he's got a solid game plan against Affinity, with Affinity being one of the most popular decks here today. So.
Totally. He's also got a Batterskull that's active, and he's forcing Alex Majleton to do some gymnastics to not let Jason Chung gain life. And he does have that ability thanks to the Arcbound Ravager. He can sacrifice in this example, Ornithopter before damage to make sure that Jason doesn't gain life. But this is not something that he can do continuously. Also, I saw Jason's top deck. It was Pia and Kieran Nalaar, which looks like the second one that he's played this game. Super powerful against Affinity. Even 1/1 flyers just do very good work against the Affinity deck.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Affinity doesn't really have many great ways to do like trample damage or get past chump blockers. So if Jason can keep up the pressure with the Batterskull and just keep some Thopters back to block, he's in a pretty good spot there.
Looks like the players are discussing a potential... it looks like they're checking what actually does the damage if you activate Pia and Kieran Nalaar. Is it the Pia and Kieran Nalaar? Is it the creature that you sack? And it is, in fact, Pia and Kieran Nalaar. In the meantime, in comes the Ravager. Whoa. Jason Chung's going to force the issue here. He's going to block with the Germ token and 3 of the Thopters for a total of 7 power.
Yeah, so this is representing, Alex has only the Mox Opal as his other artifact, and I guess the
and
Inkmoth Nexus he can activate as well. So if he wants to get it up to an 8/8 and get out of range...
Yeah, I think that Jason has a Cryptic Command in his hand, and he's kind of begging for this to happen, because then he can just bounce the Ravager.
That's right.
And leave Alex Majleton with effectively no permanence. He may even be able to get that Glimmer Void off the table, too.
Right. Yeah, so that was two mana sources already gone just to save the Ravager from that. And then Cryptic Command here, taking care of the Ravager, will then put the Glimmer Void in jeopardy. So yeah, really, really nice sequence here by Jason Chung.
Yeah, he left himself with the Thopter. He could have blocked with that, too. But he really just sort of goaded Alex Majleton into moving in fully here. And we also have to remember that he gained the 4 life that sequence, too. He did block with the Batterskull. So nice sequence there for Chung. And it looks like he's fully turned the corner as that Glimmer Void hits the bin. So why don't we jump back up to our main table between Raymond Perez Jr. and Martin Muller. I got to say, that game had a very unexpected finish. Dryad Arbor getting the job done.
Yeah.
And we'll see if, well, you know, I was going to say, we'll see if Martin's going to be a little more conservative with the life loss.
This is not a deck for being conservative, Marshall. You've kind of made your decision before you enter the tournament when you sleeve this one up.
His second Street Wraith hits the bin.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, I think Muller played perfectly fine in that first game there. He did get caught by surprise from the normal damage from the Dryad Arbor, but really only because Raymond Perez specifically had Distortion Strike. So, I think it's unlikely that that exact sequence of events will happen again. So we'll probably see, Muller just go according to his game plan, attacking his own life total and just being very aggressive with his threats and just, hoping Perez either can't race him or doesn't have any crazy Distortion Strike shenanigans again to punch through.
All right, so Muller's going to start things off with a Wild Nicottle while Raymond Perez just plays a Wooded Foothills. Ray passes a turn back to Martin, who is going to crack another fetch land here. Take a look at the shirt from Ray Perez there. Ray Future Pro, that's what he goes. That's his Twitter handle, too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Got bad news, Ray. You're a pro, buddy. You're playing on the Pro Tour. You got there. I have another update from our back tables as well. Micron defeats Josh McClain 2-0, so he had picked up that really quick one with Affinity and is able to finish off. In the meantime, we see a Thoughtseize here from Martin.
Yeah, it's a nice one, revealing only a single Blighted Agent here, which you could take. There are a couple of Ink Moth Nexuses as well, but that's a little bit more mana intensive. So, yeah. And then this dismembers as well, but 2 copies of that and only able to take 1. We'll see what Martin Muller does decide to take here. So I suppose it's going to depend a little bit on what else he has in hand. I was initially thinking maybe the Blighted Agent would be a good pick here just because it's a little bit slower and more mana intensive to start attacking in with the Ink Moth Nexuses.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay. Looks like he does go for Groundswell. That also makes a lot of sense there. It's the only pump spell that Raymond has in his hand. So.
And here's a Goblin Guide as the follow-up play as well. So this is an attack for 5. This is big beats here for Martin Muller as he attacks with both the Wild Nicottle and the Goblin Guide. And it looks like Ray's going to go ahead and crack Wooded Foothills before the trigger from Goblin Guide. Oftentimes you'll see the players look at the top card and then decide if they want to crack their fetch land, but he knew he needed to crack that anyway, so he's just going to do it beforehand. And hey, it even worked out for him. He finds a Misty Rainforest on top. In the meantime, he does take 5, dropping him down to 14 life before Martin Muller passes the turn back. And let's see what Ray can get going. We know he can play that Blighted Agent, get his game plan moving forward in that way if he wants. The fact that Martin let him keep it, though, is going to raise some suspicion probably in Ray's mind. I don't know that he has a better play anyway, though.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I was thinking Muller might go for the Blighted Agent earlier is he does have a copy of Natural State in his hand, which I believe could take out an Ink Moth Nexus.
All right, there is the Blighted Agent, and he passes a turn back. Martin's at 8 life. Ooh, a second Goblin Guide hits the battlefield, and crunch. Everybody hits the red zone here. Goblin Guide trigger is going to draw a Pendlehaven for Raymond Perez and reveal Become Immense. That's going to stay on top of his library. But in the meantime, he's got problems here. This is 7 damage. No blocks, fall down to 7. That's half of his remaining life total there. And Ray is up against it here. Can he piece together a victory in the next turn?
Yeah, Ray with 2 copies of Dismember in his hand, but not really going to help him out here.
Too slow, huh?
Well, he has to pay 4 life.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Not really worth paying 4 life to take out a 2/2 or 3/3 creature on one of the final turns of the game. So, Raymond basically needing to end the game this turn, and I don't think he can do it with what he has here. He does have that Become Immense, but not a lot of cards in his graveyard. Pendelhaven for second damage, Become Immense would be 8 if he could cast it, but I don't think he has any ways beyond that to potentially deal damage.
Another update from our back table. Ben Stark wins game 1 with his Mardu deck over Frank Carson, who is on, you guessed it, Affinity. Had a deck tech with Frank earlier today, too.
Yeah, he's a great guy and long-time Affinity player, so definitely the expert there. So thinking through Raymond's turn here, I mean, he can attack for 1 for 2 with the Blighted Agent plus Pendelhaven and play a Glistener Elf, which could chump block a Wild Nacatl. That leaves him, at very least, not dead on board, so that's a start.
Are you going to do anything about damage?
Yeah, I mean, he does know about the Temur Battle Rage in hand for Martin, right? Has he not seen it?
I don't think so. That was last turn. There was a Gataxian Probe, so I don't think he has it
Last
now.
game, okay.
Sorry, last game. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, he's not going to like it when he sees it. And Martin's going to go ahead and crack his Verdant Catacombs here.
So Raymond opted not to use the Pendelhaven on the Blighted Agent that turn, potentially leaving it back to represent Pendelhaven on Glistener Elf and blocking a 2/2 Goblin Guide. Although with the Temur Battle Rage, that would leave him dead to one of the unblocked creatures.
Yeah, he can block the Nacatl, and even with the Temur Battle Rage, survive. He would go to 1.
Oh,
There's
there's Dismember.
Dismember from Martin, though.
I think that was off the top this turn. And now what this does is when the Ink Moth gets activated, Natural State can take that out. And that will be exactly 7 damage coming through with unblocked creatures.
Yeah, it looks like Martin's primed here to win this one. Not a good draw from Raymond Perez Jr. He does find a land with one of the Goblin Guide triggers, but immediately Martin Muller is going to show him Natural State once the Inkmoth Nexus gets active, and exactly lethal 7 damage from the 2 Goblin Guides plus the Wild Nacatl means that Martin Muller wins this game and ties things up to force a game 3. All right, well, you can see that we've got a nice little King of the Hill match going on the back one with Jason Chung versus Alex Majlaton, excuse me. Jason Chung again on Blue Moon, and he's up a game here against Alex, who's on Affinity. And there's our match. We'll let our main match get their sideboard on. We'll jump back up there once they're ready for game 3, but well, this board state looks a lot better for Alex than did game 1 when we checked in.
No blocks.
Oh, geez. I spoke a little too soon there, Ian. Electrolytes just took out 2 Vault Scourges, and now the board state looks a lot worse for Alex with just the Mem Knight.
Draw for a turn.
Oh, and there's a Seagate Wreckage from Majlaton
Oh,
here.
it's a cool new addition from Oath of the Gatewatch.
And it looks like he's got no cards in hand as well, so he's going to start drawing cards off that immediately thanks to the Ornithopter and the Springleaf Drum.
Yep. Seagate Wreckage, the reverse library of Alexandria, I've heard it been called.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. And this deck is generally very good at emptying its hand out, too. And he does just that. He plays a Spellskite and a land this turn.
That's fine.
But man, that Electrolyze last turn.
Ugh.
Been seeing that card do a lot of work here this weekend. It's really well set up for taking out Affinities creatures, Infects creatures, even Eldrazi Mimics we've seen it take out.
Attack.
Jason's going to go ahead and attack with Pia and Kira Nalar. And Alex says, look, I'll just block with my Spellskite. That's fine. You can see that Jason Chung has an Anger of the Gods in his hand, but he's also got Pia and Kieran Alar plus 2 Thopters to protect here, so it's not great for him. Serum Visions. He finds another Serum Visions off of that and sees Cryptic Command Lightning Bolt for his scry options. Goodness sakes, that's a lot of action.
Yeah, it sure is.
He's at 15 life and 1 poison counter. He hasn't hit Alex yet, but being the controlling deck in this matchup, he's not super worried about that.
So where did those go? Both bottom?
Both top.
Both top. Had news for me.
So both cards kept on top from the scry, and afterwards, Pia and Kieran dealing 2 damage to Spellskite by sacrificing a Thopter.
Glimmer Void off the top for Majlaton, but we may just see the Seagate Wreckage get active here.
Draw card.
And he does exactly that. Hey, there's some business. Finds himself a Steel Overseer.
Gosh, I wish I still had my spell state. Wait, I can throw it away.
Majlaton saying, I wish I still had that Spellskite, but I threw it away there. Perhaps regretting the block on Pia and Kieran Alar.
All right, well, let's jump back up to our main match. If this one's still going, we will come back. But for now, we've got Game 3 of Raymond Perez Jr. and Martin Muller, and I got to see how this one ends. Looks like he's got, what does he have? Mishra's Bauble. There's a Bolt.
Street Wraith.
Street Wraith, a Guide, and the namesake, Death Shadow. Looks nice.
Yeah, definitely a nice hand. Raymond on the play this game, though. Definitely where he wants to be in this matchup. It's largely a race type situation.
It's going to be a Pendlehaven for Ray as he passes a turn back. Martin's going to play the Bauble, look, shuffle with Verdant Catacombs.
The only difference is it's so easy to forget the trick.
This deck is really cool.
Yeah, definitely an awesome one to try out at your local FNM or what have you. Maybe it'll even be up on the on Magic Online as one of the decks you can play from this Pro Tour. We'll see.
Oh, in the Gauntlet?
In the Gauntlet.
Oh,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. If you guys have decks you see this weekend that you'd like us to put up on Magic Online, you can definitely share that on social media, and we'll check that out and consider it as much as we can.
You changed your Twitter name, didn't you?
It's MTG_Ian Duke.
Ian Duke.
Yeah.
I liked your old one. This one's perhaps more descriptive.
So peek at the hand with Thoughtseize. Not much action going on for Raymond Perez here.
Yeah, not much at all. It was ultimately Vines of Vastwood that hit the bin there. Martin preferring to take the pump spells away from Ray. And you said it before, Ian. You don't play for a high life total with this deck. He's already down to 10 as Martin Muller. Of course, Ray has done nothing but play lands and Daxian probes here.
Yeah, and with the Thoughtseize there, coast is clear for Death Shadow. Looks like a second Death Shadow.
Double Death Shadow.
Wow, so these are 3/3s so far.
Subject to change.
So, yeah, definitely subject to change.
Even then, they're both Wild Nacatls fully charged up just on that turn. It's so funny because you think of that card and, you know, you just want it to be massive, but that's already good, right? He just put 6 power on the board on second turn here.
Yeah, and they're almost certainly going to be bigger by the time they attack.
Right.
We could even see the very rare Lightning Bolt myself for profit.
Oh, man.
I mean, likely not, but in theory, it could happen.
I want it. Aw.
So Dismember takes out 1 at the cost of 4 life and a mana for Raymond Perez.
You know, smart to get that done while he had the window to do so, because those Death Shadows could be much bigger than a Dismember can deal with by even this turn.
Ooh, does that become immense off the top?
Yes.
All right, that's a lot of additional damage.
He's counting. Uh-oh, this is never what you want to see if you're in Raymond Perez's seat.
So it goes down to 8, Death
So
Shadow up to 5/5.
5/5, yeah. Here's a Goblin Guide. Ray Perez is at 14. And
This
there's
is 13
Become Immense.
damage here.
13.
Get you to
And-
1
Yep.
and show you a Lightning Bolt, and Martin Muller puts together the win here. Holy smokes, this deck is nasty.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
And a big smile from Martin as he takes down his match against Raymond Perez Jr. Okay, let's bounce back to the one we were watching before. This is still Jason Chung of New Zealand playing against Alex Majlaton from the United States. And what has changed since? This is a really cool attrition fight. As you can see, Jason Chung very comfortably in the lead as far as cards in hand goes. But I would assume that Majlaton is basically drawing 2 cards a turn at this point, thanks to the Seagate wreckage.
That Seagate wreckage doing a lot of work. That said, just as we were leaving the match earlier, Marshall, I did see another totally sick Electrolyze taking out.
Oh, no.
I believe it
another
was
one?
a Mem Knight and the Steel Overseer at the time. So doing tons of work there.
That's brutal.
Cranial plating.
Here's a cranial plating. Look, Majlaton is going to produce a lot of things that Jason Chung is going to have to deal with. There's a gear per Aether Grid on the battlefield as well for Majlaton. Remember, this is the one that allows... Yeah, you can see it on the right-hand side of your screen there. So Alex Majlaton showing that Affinity can play the long game here. Drawing extra cards, giving himself inevitability with the Aether Grid. The life totals are tied up at 14 apiece. I see 3 Lightning Bolts in Jason Chung's hand right now. So if he wants, Alex Majlaton could virtually be at 5 life here.
Under that.
And it looks like Alex is going to play the control game. He's going to use his Aether Grid to kill, to finish off P and Kira Nalar. And now he's going to activate Blink Moth Nexus and attack with the Signal Pest and the Nexus. Now Chung's the one who's doing math. Whoop. Thinking about cracking a Misty Rainforest, maybe to fire off a Lightning Bolt here?
Yeah, this is a tough decision here. I mean, I think he can sack the Misty, get a Shock Land, shock himself, and bolt the Blink Moth. But you have to wonder if, at some level, playing this 1-for-1 attrition game could be a losing battle in the long run for Jason Chung, facing down Gear per Aether Grid and Seagate Wreckage. So he's got to be careful that he doesn't get himself in a situation where he's actually getting grinded out by an Affinity deck, which is a really unusual situation to be in, but it's actually a realistic concern here.
Yeah, kudos to Alex Majlaton for this sideboard plan.
Yeah.
It's weird to even say it in the booth for us, right? That like the blue-red player could be the one who's facing getting ground out by the Affinity player.
Yeah. It's a scary thought.
You can see that Jason Chung used a Lightning Bolt to take out the Blink Moth Nexus to preserve some of his life, and also because that thing's not going to die to Anger of the Gods.
So I think what Chung's really looking for here is a Batter Skull just to kind of stabilize the life totals and hope to close the game out pretty quickly. Doesn't look like he's found one yet, though.
I think he found an Arcbound Ravager off the top of the library there. If that is what it is, I wouldn't be surprised to see that get spell snared.
Oh, for sure.
Alex is kind of forced to just run his cards out there so he can keep on activating the wreckage. There it is, Ravager. Whoop. Spell snare. And Alex is going to activate his Ink Moth Nexus and get in for 2 poison. Alex passes the turn back to Jason, who draws his card and then passes right back. Alex fires off the gear per Aether Grid on end step.
And Jason Chung with, I think, 2 copies of Pia and Kira Nalar in his hand, it looks like. But not able to make much headway against the gear per Aether Grid. Just those artifacts to just machine gun down those Thopters. And
Yeah. Would he have any? I mean, I think Alex, if he wanted, could just take down the whole mess. He may
Well,
have to
it's-
start throwing those out, though. Otherwise, that's going to
he might
happen
have
to
to just to
Jason
buy
Chung's
time.
life total, right?
Yep.
That's okay.
Go.
End of turn.
Jason Chung's got to do something here.
Bounce. I draw.
He's going to bounce the gear per Aether Grid and draw a card. This is one of the few ways that the blue-red deck has to deal with an enchantment, is to get it back in hand and then try to counter it on the way back down.
And we might see a bolt on the Vault Scourge.
Looks like he just decided not to.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I was speculating about that is I think there's a mana leak in Jason Chung's hand, so if he can pinch Magleton on 5 mana, then the gear per Aether Grid can't safely come down. So killing the Vault Scourge would shut off the Springleaf Drum. That said, any land or a Mox Opal for Magleton would put him right back up to 6 mana, so maybe not a totally reliable plan there.
Okay, well, he's going to play a Pia and Kira Nalar, leaving up 2 mana, blue-blue or blue-red, and then pass the turn back to Alex.
And there
Alex
is that
does have the
Mox
Mox Opal, and you see he very astutely plays it first. And now he's going to replay his Aether Grid, and he's going to play around Mana Leak here.
Yeah, I mean, he did have already Vault Scourge plus Springleaf Jump
Indeed.
for the 3rd mana, but this is just being extra safe here.
Yeah, being extra safe, and Jason Chung does use Mana Leak just to tap out Alex here. He must figure, I'm not getting anything else with it.
Yeah, I mean, it also shuts off at least one Aether Grid activation by tapping those Darksteel Citadels. And that lets Pia and Kieran get a little bit more traction on the ground here.
All right, now this is interesting. Jason just found a Spellskite.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah, he can leave up a lot of blue mana for it as well.
You have 4 cards.
And that can suck up a lot of the damage that an Aether Grid can do and really mitigate the damage that card can do.
No blocks.
In the meantime, he's going to get in for 3 and drop Alex down to 11. I think Spellskite was just a really good draw here.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think Alex is thinking, no Spellskite, no Spellskite, no Spellskite, no Spellskite.
Let's see.
That one's the good one.
You hear that from Jason? That one's the good one. He's not wrong. Now, can Alex, when can he activate this thing 4 times in a turn? Is he close?
He's at 3 right now, assuming he activates the Inkmoth Nexus.
Okay. And is that 3 or 3.5?
3.
Okay,
So
so
now,
it's
now
gonna-
he's at 3.5 with the Darksteel Citadel here.
Signal Pest.
And that'll be the 4th with this Signal Pest here.
Now, I wonder if Jason's going to have to start dedicating some of these bolts to the creatures there that are helping that along.
Your turn.
And Alex is just going to pass the turn back. Another match update. Ben Stark defeats Frank Karsten. Ben with his Mardu deck defeats Frank in his affinity list. So Ben Stark is 6-1 to start his Pro Tour off.
7.
All right, and you can see the game plan coming together here.
Yep.
Ian, he just threw that Thopter with Pink Hair Nalar at Alex.
Yep, and with 2 Lightning Bolts in hand, plus the Spellskite to throw, we could be seeing a lethal turn here.
Jason has been conserving those lightning bolts as much as he could. The only one he used was on a Blinkmoth Nexus that was going to deal a good chunk of damage to him. Otherwise, he has held those in his hand. And you can see why. Yeah, this is an awkward spot for Alex because he'd love to just mow down P and Kieran Nalar here, but that's not going to work with the Spellskite out.
Block.
So he's going to have to actually just summon a couple of creatures for blocks here. And that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to activate Inkmoth Nexus and block in conjunction with the Vault Scourge.
And I imagine we just see
He's just going to go
sacrifice
for it, right?
Spellskite, deal 2 to you.
Bolt you.
Bolt you. You go down to 1, and now all he has to do is activate P and Kieran Nallar, and right now, Alex Majlaton is really in the hot seat.
Yeah, I'm at 1.
He's at 1. Throw this at your head, and that
All right.
does it. Jason Chung finds the win again. He has been really dialed in this weekend with this Blue Moon deck.
Yeah, it's looking great so far.
You know, he did test with MTG Mint Card. Li Shitian is kind of the de facto captain of MTG Mint Card and also kind of the master. He's done the best with his Blue Moon deck. I wonder if he...
That's right. They were the team that really showcased this at Pro Tour Born of the Gods 2 years ago, right?
Exactly, yeah, with Lee top 8ing with it, in fact. So I do wonder if he got a bunch of tips from Li Shitian there. But nice work for Jason as he finishes off his match and improves to 7-0 here to start things off.
Awesome
So
for
throw
him,
the
yeah.
draft and just run it through in Modern. Of course, we do have one more round to bring you here, and then we're going to call it a day here in Atlanta. But great stuff so far today.
yeah.
It's been really fun to watch. I know I was really interested to see how the limited rounds went because we did have a Grand Prix, in fact, 3 of them the weekend before the Pro Tour where some of this stuff kind of got settled down. And then we got, here into the hands. We had some great pods early in the morning. And now we're starting to get a pretty good taste for what's going on in Modern as well as we move through day 1.
Yeah, it's looking very cool. Awesome deck so far. Really excited about the Eldrazi decks. Eager to see how they do. And yeah, cool stuff. I'm definitely rooting for this Blue Moon deck too. I like it a lot.
I kind of like this deck a lot too. I think maybe it looks like it's pretty well positioned, and I think we might even see it make a decent run here. And we've seen Jason Chung have really good results with it, and we've only seen him, at least when I was in the booth, twice, and he's kind of crushed. It's pretty good so far.
Yeah.
So exciting deck. All right, well, there's a whole lot more going on in this tournament, of course, and for more details on that, let's head to Richard Hagan at the news desk.
Yeah, things starting to take shape now with 1 round to go. Thanks very much, Marshall, there. 1 round to go of Modern. And really a big round coming up, especially for players on 5 and 2. It's a really pivotal round, this last round, for them. If you're already at 6-1, well, then you're just playing for a great start and coming back tomorrow in fantastic shape, maybe being on pod 1. If you're at 4 and 3, well, even 5 and 3, it's not that great. But the 5 and 2, so much rests on this next round. 6 and 2, you're on track for 12-4. That's right on the cusp of top 8 contention. Really a very good day at the office. If you lose this last round and fall to 5 and 3, that's not so good. Oh, excuse me. I do beg your pardon. Big round coming up for the 5-2s. They include Brad Nelson. Andrew Cuneo is 5 and 2 from the Pantheon. Yuya Watanabe, we've hardly mentioned him today, but he's comfortably into day 2 and now has to make it stick with winning this last round, 5 and 2 for him. Marco Camiluzzi, the World Magic Cup champion from Italy. Sam Black is 5-2, and so is John Stern from Team Face to Face. Someone who was 4 and 2 coming into the round was Kazuyuki Takamura of Japan. Now, obviously, he doesn't speak a lot of English, and we certainly don't speak any Japanese. Fortunately, we had a translator on hand yesterday to hear the thoughts of this outstanding new Japanese player. So let's hear from him right now. If we can, looks to me like we may have a problem with that Takamura interview. So just let me tell you, while we wait for that, William Jensen is up to 6 and 1, and so is Luis Scott Vargas. He is starting to talk about potentially not coming back to commentate with us on Sunday. And honestly, we would think that was fantastic. We know you love to see Luis in the booth, but it'd be great to see him out on the floor of the top 8. Well, we are ready now to show you Kazuyuki Takamura. Thanks for being patient. Here he comes.
I am here with Kazuyuki Takamura from Team Big Magic Pros. Kazuyuki, welcome.
Yeah.
So the first question I have is, you're coming back to the Pro Tour. Any nerves? Are you nervous?
緊張してますか？いや、緊張は全然してないですね。 Not at all nervous.
Not at all
Relax.
nervous. Is that because after winning a Pro Tour, you feel a lot more comfortable?
それは優勝したからでしょうかね。もうなんかプレッシャーがなくなってリラックスしたとかそういう意味ですか。
いや、いつも優勝する前から緊張はしてないんですね。ただただもう高ぶってるって感じです。
He's excited, but not really a person who gets nervous on tournaments in general.
How was testing? Did you feel confident from testing, or maybe not as confident?
テストプレー今回されると思うんですけど、どうですか、調子はどうでしたか？
ドラフトはすごい調子はいいんですけど、モダンがですね、実はまだデッキが決まってなくて、今3択から絞ろうかなという感じです。
Draft he's pretty comfortable with. He practiced a lot, but modern deck he has to choose one from the 3 that he's thinking of.
From the three. So we're here on the eve of the Pro Tour, and you still have to make a decision for tomorrow.
明日なんですけどね。
And you're not nervous.
い
や、緊張はしてない。
Oh, that's fantastic. Kazuyuki, I want to wish you good luck in the tournament. I hope you have a good time.
Thank you.
頑張ってください。
Thanks very much to Kazuyuki Takamura there from Japan. Been joined at the desk by Randy Buehler. Still plenty of results coming in. If we can make it happen, we have something really rather special coming up in just a few minutes. But that is contingent on Brian Kibler, who's been playing for 20 years. There's a clue there. Finishing his match, which right now we don't think he is. But we'll see what we can do for you. Meanwhile, Randy, let's take a breath. We're coming towards the end of round 7 here. 4 rounds of Modern gone, 1 more today, 5 more tomorrow. First off, good job in the preview yesterday when we did the Modern overview. You said, look, I think the 4 big decks here, realistically, Affinity and Burn the top 2. Then I'm going to go with Infect. And, you know, maybe Eldrazi's the 4th one in there.
Well, a little too much credit. I had like Black-Green X as my 5th deck, and it's nowhere to be seen, but the Eldrazi have just taken over, is what it looks like to me. There's a lot more Eldrazi than I was expecting. I was kind of rooting for it yesterday, and we got there.
Yeah, and also a lot of people decided that was a good plan. It isn't just that a few are doing well and we're artificially saying, look at our lovely new Eldrazi deck. More than 30 players came in.
It's the 3rd most played deck.
Right, absolutely.
It goes Burn and Affinity.
Burn and Affinity together at like 50-51.
I think they're actually tied, and then it's a tie for 3rd.
Yes.
Infect and Eldrazi.
Right, so
it's a lot of Eldrazi.
The Eldrazi is a real thing and certainly worth exploring in Modern. Now, you of course are known for the Gauntlet of Greatness and so on. Now we have a Pro Tour Gauntlet coming your way on Magic Online starting next Wednesday. What you'll be able to do for a week, you can play one of the top Modern decks from this Pro Tour. Now, you won't know which one. You'll sit down, you'll join the queue, and then as it starts up, you'll get given one of the top decks. It could be a top 8 deck. It could just be a really good constructed deck from elsewhere in the field. Maybe someone who went 3-3 in draft, but 8-2 in constructed. So that kind of thing.
And it sounds like R&D hasn't actually picked those decks yet, right? No. They're going to look at the weekend. They're going to look at the top 8, you know, somewhere between Sunday night and Monday morning. They're going to decide,
right?
Is it 8 decks?
I think it's more.
Maybe it's 16 decks
right. So
that go into the system where you then get dealt one of them at random every time you
and the thing I love most about that idea is that if you haven't played a lot of Modern and you don't have a Modern deck of your own, you can go into a bunch of queues over the week, test out essentially, you know, how much fun did you have if you were Infect? Or is that not your speed? Did the math of Affinity just not sit with you? Did you suddenly find, hey, I want to get to 7 and play Tron? Who knows how it ends up? But through that week, you've got that opportunity to test a whole bunch of different Modern decks, and then maybe at the end of the week go, I think I'm a Burn player, and then go put your Modern collection together as we move forward. But I think that a lot of people are going to be excited to play Eldrazi in that.
I agree with you completely, and it is very much a test drive too.
Yeah.
And I feel like if there's a deck you want to make sure is in the mix, get onto Twitter, right? Tell Ian Duke to take the word home with him Sunday night.
Yeah, the Death Shadow Aggro.
That's got to make the cut.
That seems
like even
like
if it doesn't top 8, that's got to make the cut. Right?
Anytime you can legitimately say to yourself, I feel I may want to lightning bolt myself in the face. Anytime that's the correct answer, that's got to be fun magic. Anyway, out on the floor, you see time is called on the round, but matches are still going on. And that tends to happen especially at the back end of day one. Super grindy matchups, really eking out those last points of damage. Brian David Marshall is out on the floor for us. BDM, where are you and what are you looking at?
All right, I'm over here by table 99. I've been hopping all around the hall as matches have wrapped up. I watched Antonina De Rosa go to 6-1. I watched Paulo Vitor Damarosa go to 6-1. Now I'm sitting over here. We're back at table 99. David Ochoa is playing Ray Doyle. It's game 3. And there's a Thought Not Seer facing off against a Baloth. It's kind of grindy. It's coming down. They're going to run out of time. It's going to come down to turns. But a lot of other matches are finished. I do know that the Brian Kibler match we were waiting on, he was playing Shahar Shenhar this round. I don't know who won, but I know that it's over. So that's what's going on right now down on the floor.
All right, thanks very much to BDM. I've just been handed a piece of paper here, and I'm just going to read out, literally, I haven't even seen this. I'm going to read this out word for word to you right now. Just a bit ago, we aired a deck tech for an Infect deck. It had an inappropriate name. We did not properly vet the deck name before going on air with it live, and using it was a mistake. That deck name does not reflect the standards of Wizards of the Coast. We do apologize, and we will take better care with this type of content in the future. So apologies for that. We do hope you are not offended by that, and again, we do apologize for that. So on we go. We're heading towards the back end, and you saw down there on the floor a whole slew. All the Scottish players were down there. You saw Stephen Murray, Martin Clement, Vaughan Swift, the whole of the top 8 team from the World Magic Cup. So they were down there watching in with BDM on table 99. So back to Modern and our sense of where we're going.
Sure.
We have a tendency, it's our job, to be excited on day one about things that aren't the top tier lists, and then to watch as the top tier lists destroy all the not top tier lists on day 2. So are we, in your best judgment, heading towards a Sunday that features 3 affinity decks, 3 burn decks, and a couple of something else made up of the field? Or are we going to see a very diverse Sunday, do you feel?
I think I would bet diverse. It seems like the Eldrazi deck is real. Like we're, getting 3-4 rounds into Constructed, and, all the players that are playing that deck seem to be hanging out toward the top of the standings, seem to be, moving up higher and higher as they fail to pick up losses. The Death Shadow deck seems real. I think that what we're going to see on Sunday is a lot of fast decks. Like the overwhelming thing that all the decks that seem to be having success have in common, with the possible exception of Jason Chung, they're blisteringly fast. They're aggro, they're beatdown. They're not really combo. I mean, I guess you can count Infect as combo. But they're attacking and trying to just implement their game plan as fast as they possibly can, which is the thing that seems to tie a lot of what's going together in Modern right now.
Right, and certainly sort of following up from what you say there, you look at Delver, think of the Sean McLaren style deck, red, blue, white control, all your kind of paths and your 1 single mana counter spells. You got to pay 2 extra here, 3 extra there, lightning bolt this, bit of electrolyze, draw a card. Those kind of decks seem to be almost gone from the field.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to show up for a Pro Tour like this with one of those decks because you don't know what the target is. Like, banning Splinter Twin shakes everything up. I kind of doubt that Modern a month from now is going to look like Modern today, just because everyone's going to watch this Pro Tour and everybody's going to see what has success. And now I can build now that I know what the target is, I can show up with a controlled deck. I can, electrolyze your 1 toughness creatures or whatever it is that happens to be the right answer to the threats that people are proposing. But so far this weekend, threats are the right strategy, not answers.
All right. As you can see, 0 matches left. Well, if there are 0 matches left, that must mean that Brian Kibler has finished playing Magic this round. And if he's finished playing Magic this round, that special thing I told you about, we can do that. So here's the thing. It's 20 years since the first Pro Tour. 1996, they're all there ringing on their phones to make it in. That's how you qualified. There was only one way to qualify for Pro Tour 1. Pick up the phone and dial and hope it isn't engaged at the other end. Well, Brian Kibler was there, so we're going to wind the clock back to 1996. It's time for a very special Pro Tour 1 deck tech.